I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on heaven and hell? Does that seem wildly absurd, super obvious, offensive? Like I don't know. What do you think of that take on? I mean, it's a big take on all of life, really.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is a big take on all of life. Mm-hmm. Sorry. Mm.
Hi, OSHA. How's your arm?
Good.
You good with the
Yeah.
grass and the mic?
Yes.
Excellent. I woke up today to some rough news.
Mm.
Uh, and because I think I said news at the same time that dinged, I will say again, I woke up today to some rough news.
Mm.
I told you about the person who came here maybe a month and a half ago looking for help with the cancellation. They're in the middle of a big cancellation campaign.
Actually, I don't know that you did, or at least I'm not recalling it
Okay.
fully right now.
So,
Can you share?
brief, partial details. I was first
Mhm.
introduced to the situation. Student here said that they had an acquaintance, somebody who really likes, student here is a musician, so there's somebody who's like in that music scene, likes going to all the shows, and is kind of in that circle.
Okay.
But they're not super close. Who identified our student um, as someone who might be able to help them
Mm.
with the problems that they were having um, with being kind of thrown out of the queer community
Okay.
forcibly, which mostly you just like being banned from spaces for reasons they didn't think
Oh.
were legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
this
I'm recalling this
yeah
just a little
most
bit.
most
Mm-hmm.
acutely came after like a like women and femmes pole dancing class that somebody said
Right.
that this individual was gyrating uh, inappropriately during a pole dancing class and was making people uncomfortable, and they had to
Hmm.
leave. And they had the obvious objections to that, and so they were just not getting along with this queer community that was also because of their life decisions that they had made to become a part of this community,
Mm-hmm.
kind of the only place that they were going to fit in,
Mm.
at least in their perspective,
Okay.
and very defensively so. Like so, basically, this thing happens with a lot of subcultures. This happens with you know um, people from all kinds of different. I'm thinking like if you're in like the rainbow family and you get your ears super gauged and you know uh, big dancing bear neck tattoo, like, and then you want to be like, actually, I'm not a hippie. Like your life is hard. Or if like all the people who are hippies start hating you, and you've got your whole life is built around the dead and fish and whatever. This is like maybe a weird example, but like it can feel really awful if you've made serious decisions that would disconnect you from the rest of the world so that you can be completely enmeshed with a very intimate world that now rejects you. And so that was the thing I really felt a lot of sympathy for this person coming to the dojo and saying like, hey, I'm at my wit's end. I'm being canceled by these people who basically promised community and promised inclusivity and acceptance. Um, and I'm just like for that, I'm just like, yeah, that's super fucked up. Like if you're a community and the contemporary queer community is the most extreme case of this that I know of, where it's like it really encourages people to take hormone therapy and get surgeries and all these different things that will make them like not fit in most of the rest of the world, or at least not feel immediately comfortable, even if though actually lots and lots of people just don't care and could accept that person, but it doesn't feel like you can just immediately wander into a sports bar and like be just one of the guys again. Um, so there's this problem where that community that encourages people to do all of those things doesn't feel any responsibility to the people who have made those decisions to stick with them. once someone has made a lot of sacrifices to belong, I think that it's very, very, very important for the people who affirm those sacrifices to have incredible loyalty.
Mm.
You know, it's it's not okay to reject someone after they make big social sacrifices to be accepted by you, right? And this kind of comes down to that whole fidelity of communications thing again. It's like, yeah, maybe there should be more conversation about what the guarantees are and what the expectations are in these communities. That might be nice, but in the absence of those very clear communications, people should feel, or like, it would be morally good of a person to recognize that the their interactions with the person have consequences, and that people have um, really given a lot of themselves to be accepted in a community, and the affirmation of those sacrifices is a commitment. I guess that's the thing I'm saying. When someone makes sacrifices to fit in, and the people they're trying to fit in with affirm them, that should be treated as a commitment.
Mhm.
That's what that affirmation honorably means. Like, if you want to be a person of honor, you treat your affirmations as some degree of commitment to that other person. I don't know. What are your thoughts on all of that?
Mhm. Mm. Mm. Yeah, I think it's at times can be such a challenge to desire to belong, especially when there are a set of stories or conditions involved that you're not fully aware of. So I think it's just repeating what you're saying and what you're speaking to. But that's incredibly painful. It, I think, drags us further into the depths of like what we feel belonging is to us. Um, and especially to be in a position where you already feel um, that, thinking of like the trans community, for example, where, and I'm not a trans person, I can't speak to this in the way that I think would, like, I'd like to have a trans person to have a conversation with around this, but my assumption, or I can only imagine, that to be born into a body that you don't necessarily feel like you fully belong in, or this orientation that has been um, given to you doesn't feel like it works for you. So the vulnerability of opening yourself up to change and entering into sort of this like bright shiny world of like, oh yeah, like, I've been in queer communities that's like, yeah, we're so loving and open, and it's the total opposite. It's the performance piece. It's like we're performing, and then we have this idea of a story, and then when we actually enter into the room together, the conflict comes up of like, actually this isn't what I want, or um, there's an invisible agreement in the group that you have to sort of behave and act a certain way. And when you don't do that, yeah, you just don't belong. Um, so, yeah, I think it's just repeating the things that you're speaking to again, but um, I just feel for this person and the vulnerability in general of being rejected from a group, and especially the heightened intensity of cancel culture and what that has meant in society. Um, and yeah, I'm wondering
Yeah.
how this ends because I can only imagine, right? Like my
Yeah.
mind jumps to several places because, yeah.
Yeah. So they came here because our student said, you know, yeah, our school might be able to help you come by. And we had a conversation, which, I at first, and when you and I have had similar conversations where at first I'm just like, okay, tell me what's going on. Because I had heard some rumors. I read a thread, like a chat thread on Instagram with a bunch of just, shit talking. And I, in those situations, there's a lot that is not said, because there were interpersonal interactions and all these different things. And so
Yeah.
I just, had the whole tell me what's going on. And then, me, where I'm just like, every time something vague comes up, I'm like, okay, what did that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what actually happened here? You said this person was being shitty to you. What does that mean? Like, and we had that conversation, and that part went pretty well. And then it moved to the okay, what are we going to do about it? And I told this person like, hey, um, and we also, this is worth noting, there was the hey, are you in immediate danger conversation that was the beginning. Same thing that we showed at the beginning of your training, and that we had in person off camera well before that.
Yeah.
So we got through that. There's no real reason to believe that there was an immediate threat of any kind. Um, and but some things came up in that conversation, specifically um, as a result of this person gyrating in a strip or not a stripping class, but pole dancing class, which I still can't believe that anybody took their own. Like, I can understand how a person can see a person in their very first class without, you know, conditioned, educated stripper body gyrating and not have positive feelings about it. But those are feelings you keep to yourself because that's the time and
Yeah.
place for that kind of thing. And I still have trouble believing that a person like said out loud, "Hey, you shouldn't be moving like that in this inclusive space for people to learn how to." Anyway,
Like you have trouble believing that that's actually what happened?
no, I believe
Okay.
that's what happened.
Okay.
I've encountered enough people saying just unhinged shit to believe that someone did that, but I'm still just flabbergasted that a person used their outside voice to say that and then wasn't immediately like, "Oh, that was a stupid thing to say."
I see.
Like, in any case, that it actually not only did they not say that that was a stupid thing to say, but they went on to call this individual's employer
Hmm.
and accuse them of being a predator.
Oh my gosh.
Got them fired. So
Wow.
they were, when they showed up, were on the verge of homelessness because they had been out of work for a while. There's this huge smear campaign, and they were basically like one by one losing people and resources
Yeah.
and everything. And they're just about to be. I think they'd already gotten like eviction papers, and they're like trying to
Oh my
figure out where to
gosh.
live. And trying to figure out where to live when there's a massive campaign to convince people that you're a monster is hard.
Yes.
And so yeah, so there wasn't an immediate like, yeah, this person's going to show up and shoot me kind of threat, but there's serious danger,
Yeah.
and like in existentially, and so that was what came up in that conversation.
Well, and if that's information is being made public and other people who you don't know are having that kind of conversation about you and have big feelings about
Yeah.
those themes, that is dangerous.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And so we moved on to the what are we doing about this phase, and I said, and I actually I stand by this. There's got to be a little give and take. Like, you're coming in from outside, and we need you to show that you will make some contribution to things we need here. We try to keep it very win-win. And so I said, the student who invited you, who was present, needs to learn to teach Pinon 1, the form that you just learned. So this student needs to learn to teach this, and so you're going to spend about 20 minutes trying to learn this form. and that's going to give the students some experience teaching it, and doing this hopefully will be grounding for you and productive, and then we'll move on to making a plan for how to do things. But this is the first thing we're going to ask you to do to show that you're serious about accepting help, right? And that's when this individual got very upset, um, on the basis of a claim to be a pacifist. And the assertion was practicing a martial arts form is rehearsing violence. Defensible. It is. It's rehearsing violence. That's what it is. And as a pacifist, I can't rehearse violence. And so, my counter to that was essentially there are lots of places that might be able to help you, but you came to a dojo, a school of martial arts. Like, we have a lot of lessons that don't involve hurting people, and for the most part, actually, everything we do, like, it very, very rarely results in us going out to, we don't really go out to execute violence, but violence happens.
Sure.
With members of the school, things happen, and but we're not training to hurt people. Even as I should say, we are not training out of an interest in hurting people, but we do train to hurt people, and those things are importantly different. And so, if this is the school you've come to for help, there's a certain amount of embracing that you have to do if you're going to receive our help, because everything we have to share and to help comes from a bedrock that this is the discipline. Even just in terms of the resources that we have, the fact that people have gathered into this place, and have social connections and all these things. The thing that brings us together is we study the discipline of martial arts, and so even not doing the form but coming here for help is embracing that to a certain extent, and we need a representation of it. That's what I said. I got a lot of pushback, and the pushback was essentially along the lines of the notion that violence itself is the problem and that people shouldn't be violent. And then, interestingly, that when I inquired as to the unkind words that I had read from this person in the exchange with their counselors, I was just like, okay, so you're doing these things, and also tried to essentially lash out to get some of them fired from their jobs and things like that in retribution. I'm like, how is that different? And there was this belief that was expressed that social self-defense is different than physical violence, which is true. It's different. It is a little bit different in kind, but it's on a continuum, right? And so, in any case, said individual left the dojo very angry, and later DM'd me and asked me out on a date, which was interesting. Because,
Well,
and I think that isn't completely bizarre, because in their leaving, I made sure that they knew that they could come back anytime,
yeah,
and that the offer was the same.
yeah.
So I said, if this escalates and you change your mind or you want to rethink things, come back, do the form,
Yeah.
have a conversation. We'll make a plan. We'll help you out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I expressed in that time, like all of the anger is understandable, because you just have to, like, it's insanity making the experiences, right, that this person's going through. And so, like, I don't hold it against them that they lashed out or that they're angry, because who wouldn't be? And it's just very sensitive time. So my offer was, hey, come back anytime. In order to find us, when, and offers the same. It stands, right? Because no harm was done, so there's no reason for there to be any sort of, like,
Yeah. Well, I think especially like when you're desiring to belong and then you're not belonging and not really disruptive, like experiences happening for you, and then you're attempting to orient to like what care and belonging actually means. So then, like, going to a dojo to ask for help, like, I can understand that there was anger and all kinds of emotions that probably arose for that person.
Yeah.
'Cause it's really tender. That's a really tough thing to do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So the news that I got this morning was that this person committed suicide, and that's happened very recently. It does suck, and, I have a lot of thoughts about it. and it sucks. I do have some feelings about it. We didn't have. I didn't go out on the date. We don't. We never established a real intimate connection of any kind. They came through. They asked for help. They didn't like the terms. And I think this is actually part of the importance of making those expectations very explicit. Is if that had been the conversation they'd had with their previous community, like, hey, what are the terms? Like, what are the expectations of me before I change my life around to be a part of this group? Like,
Yeah.
maybe it would have saved them a lot of heartache. I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe not.
I think there's also something in there too that, and I recognize that this can be said for all of time, but that we are in a very big time of experimentation and of
Mm,
change, and socially, politically, I mean, there's so many of us on this planet. There's so many things to be felt and to be concerned about and to play and practice with. And I think that can be just a really hard edge to walk in, like, oh, if this person just asked clearer questions, which, yeah, definitely is a factor for sure.
yeah.
And also, like, we're sort of in group spaces now in which we don't have a lot of like guideship, and we don't have a lot of elders, or we had this brief conversation the other night of like, there isn't like, the village witch or the shaman or the medicine person, or just a lot of times even like a grandma or a grandpa, or someone that you can go and say in that community, hey, I am thinking about doing this thing, I'm thinking about entering into this, like, we don't have these people that we can gain experience from. And they're like, yeah, that's great, and maybe like, here's my experience with this, like, let's think about that. And I mean, cancel culture is just so intense, and there isn't this room for learning, because then cancel culture, the entity of it, wouldn't exist. Like, because, and I don't know, to me, I guess, to provide more clarity on that, like, I really see cancel culture. I mean, so many other things are like this as well, but like, as like it's like a living organism. Like, it's like parasitic. It like really wants to thrive and survive on its like host, or like its virus like, where it doesn't want to kill the host, but it wants to make it sick enough that it can fuel
It's
its
part of how it
body.
spread. So it
Yeah, yeah,
spreads.
yeah.
It can only spread between sick people.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so I think that there are rare cases in which people are on the verge of being canceled, and they're like, hey, I really learned from this. And people are like, that's excellent. Like, we love seeing your growth. And then they actually integrate and implement, and like, or they actively are like engaging in that growth. And I just had a friend recently have a conversation with me, and this person is more so on the conservative side of things, but when it comes down to it, when we have conversations, we're very much so in alignment with a lot of ethical, um, like in alignment with a lot of things. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, we shouldn't be bombing children in Gaza or people in Gaza in general. Like, that's maybe not the way to go. But it's like, they have this sort of like stacked belief system, right? That makes it feel like, okay, we are enemies. But this person, like, genuinely wants to learn and is curious. And I guess that they had said something online, and just people came out in droves and just like attacked them. And they ended up looking more into it and came back and was like, actually, yeah, I was wrong about this thing. I'm changing my belief around this, or my feeling around this. And they it then intensified,
Yeah.
actually. Like, the people did not like that, and so they're like, okay, fine, I'm just going to not actually participate and be here anymore. And so they like remove themselves from that space. But anyways, I'm like rambling about this,
That's
but
fine. Yeah.
it's that's like really upsetting. People's lives matter. Like, and it's just, yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot.
It is. It's a lot. And the
It makes me
thing,
really sad.
yeah, it is. It's one of the things that I've been thinking about even before I got this news, just because of other things that we've been talking about and dealing with. Because for anyone who hasn't guessed, we are in a community of people. It's not just the two of us, and people have messy lives. And when you get beyond like drinking buddy status and get enmeshed with people and really try to build together and achieve things and have um, deep cooperation with people, you get into the messy bits of people's lives. And so, we're in a community where we really try to help people with wherever they're at. And one of the things I've noticed that is a major, uh, a very clear frame for success um, is actually, there's that Buddhist parable or proverb or whatever about the difference between heaven and hell, where hell is a place where everyone has chopsticks tied to their hands, and they the chopsticks are so long that they can't feed themselves,
Mm.
and so they're sitting at a massive banquet table full, like just perpetually full of fresh and delightful food, and they can't eat any of it. And they're just sitting there starving and suffering, looking at the best food ever, and their hands are just bound to these chopsticks. And heaven is exactly the same.
Yeah, they can
But
just feed each other.
in heaven, they just feed each other. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And people have said this, and I've seen it even used as an analog for like socialism, which is fucking stupid. Um, but I don't think a lot of people actually think about how the parable works, because um, the so do you know John Nash? You ever see the movie A Beautiful Mind? So John Nash was a mathematician. So this is kind of a tangent, but it wraps around and creates and could make a lot of clarity. One of the things that John Nash um, discovered was a particular subset of microeconomics that's now called game theory. Or you could say that game theory and microeconomics are completely distinct fields and they just happen to have some overlap. That's irrelevant. Um, uh, there were a few game theoretic thought experiments that John Nash happened upon um, that are very important. The one that most people know about is the prisoner's dilemma. The prisoner's dilemma is, for anybody who isn't aware of it, it's this idea that if you arrest two people who are both suspects in uh, suspected of being collaborators in a crime, and you separate them, and then you tell each one that whoever rats out the other one first is going to get a significantly reduced sentence, and the one who doesn't beat the other one to it is going to get the book thrown at them. That's the best way of getting, um, uh, or they will get whatever. You get the idea. If you rat the other person out, and if you do it fastest, then you get preferential treatment. And so the prisoner's dilemma is, um, does it make sense to rat out your friend? You're both, the assertion is that both people are dead to rights, guilty, and it's going to be proven, but essentially, law enforcement's just trying to save time. And there's a lot of discussion about, edge cases in the prisoner's dilemma and what are the optimal decisions and all these different things. So people are aware of that one. One that I think is actually more important, which is related, is the coin doubling game. Have you heard of this? Um, so imagine there are two people sitting at a table, and there's like a dealer. So there's a person running the game, and there are two people opposite each other, and there are two stacks of coins in the middle of the table, like left and right of each other. And there's a dealer who says to each person in turn, you can take either stack of coins, or you can double.
Mm-hmm. They
Now,
can see each other.
That's a good question. It's a very good question. And then, it goes to the other person, and the other person gets to decide to double each stack or take their stack. Take either stack. You get to choose. Presumably, the person's going to take the bigger stack.
Okay, so
and
they
leaving.
Can see each other then. They can see each other then.
It's still a good question.
Okay.
I keep on not answering your question, and there's a reason.
I'm assuming, yeah.
I'm going to actually ask you to explain the relevance of your question, because it is the crux of the whole issue. Why do you think that it's important that they can see each other?
So that they would know what stakes are, like what's at stake, like
Say
what's
more
on
about
the
that.
table,
Well, it's coins.
Like,
Coins are on the table.
yeah. Well, one coin versus 4 coins. And see, I'm someone that's like, what's the situations like that they're in, and like how dire are things? But I think it's, what
Okay.
are the coins on the table? Like what's actually being offered? And if they are not able to see, I mean, just, all of it, you're gambling, so you're just guessing.
Is it gambling though?
Well, I mean,
Where there is an element
they-
of gambling, but where's the element of gambling?
if they aren't able to see one another.
Is that the gamble?
Well, actually, I think on both, all of it's a gamble, right?
Well, so,
Unless
let's just assume that both parties know that the dealer is being honest. It's just a given. The dealer's being honest. He's going to keep doubling the coins as long as both parties say double.
Yeah.
If you say double, the stacks get doubled, and anytime a person chooses to take a stack and walk away, the game's over. But there's no take backsies. So that's not gambling. We're just assuming that is accurate. That's real. Right? So assuming that is certain, where is the element of gambling?
Okay, then maybe there isn't.
Is there? Though? Is there not?
Are they playing a card? Like, so if they were to agree to double, but they could lose, right? Is that, like, maybe that's where I'm
Well, what is
curious.
losing exactly?
Yeah. Because you still walk away with some kind of coin if that's the choice that's made.
Yeah, totally. So why doesn't I actually do think that it's incredibly important that they can see whether or not they can see each other. But why is it important? Like what makes it so important? Just imagine the game playing out with people who can see each other and people who can't, and describe it for me in either case.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to just maybe think about it, and like, I guess for me it's just coming down to like they can see like what's actually on the table, like they can see what's being
So
played.
let's just say they're
see
quarters.
each other, they can
It's
see
just,
the energy, like they
yeah.
can
Okay, so tell me about the seeing
feel
each other,
like-
seeing the energy piece. What is that? What does it do?
Yeah, I think it aligns us to having empathy or sympathy or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Nash proved that the most rational decision is to take the stack of 4 coins and walk away. He proved it mathematically, which is one of those weird things. He's not a behavioral economist. I don't even think the school of behavioral economics existed when John Nash was doing this work. It might have. Fact check me, YouTube. I don't care. But it wasn't about behavioral economics. It was about microeconomics and pure rationality. And what's wild about every single one of John Nash's game theoretical experiments, thought experiments, is that each of them exists in reality and is obscured. So they're not playing out in laboratories. If you actually play out this experiment in a laboratory on a table and the two people are sitting across from each other, you get very different results than if you set up the exact same conditions in the ambient environment and nobody's pointing to them. Right?
Which makes sense.
Yeah. So you have like litter and the tragedy of the commons is actually very much like one of these game theoretic experiments. Like there are all sorts of doubling behaviors that people could engage in, but generally we don't, unless through culture, elders, essentially, usually some kind of tradition, things that are now seen as archaic or dogmatic. Those things are what enforces doubling behaviors. And it may seem preposterous, but if you think about how most of the world at this point lives. Definitely anybody watching this video on YouTube. And you think about the distance between the nature of our lives and the default, the baseline, which is you're born hungry and afraid in a jungle, and you probably get eaten before you're 3 years old. Like that's what we were promised by by all of this. Like that's the default life, and everything we have that is more pleasant than that is because of doubling behaviors, right? Because somebody's saying, I'm going to choose to double both stacks regardless of which one I get. Like that's the reason we have running water. That's the reason we have medicine. That's the reason we have all of the amenities. Everything that makes life comfortable, long, is because of someone making a choice to uh, put in effort that they didn't need to put in, which is essentially the same as taking the risk of getting the smaller stack, so that posterity would have more, right? So it does happen because John Nash is not the first person to see this principle, probably though in a different way. Um, and this all relates back to the heaven and hell thing, because when you describe these two places to anyone would rather live in heaven than in hell. That sounds stupid to point out, right? Um, but they think that living in heaven is being fed. And if you're thinking about being fed, being taken care of, someone providing for you, if that's what you're concerned with and that's what you want, then you end up creating hell. If what you understand is, I just need to feed all the people I can because that's the affordance I have. I have these chopsticks for fingers. That's the premise. It's just funny. I thought it was the grass. Now it's my hair.
Sorry, grass.
Sorry. Well, it just wanted to produce
They
seed.
make you feel so bad because they really don't want to get pulled out.
Oh, well.
They really.
I mean, I think it's gone to seed at this point. I think it's fulfilled its dharma. There's seed coming out of those pods. Pretty sure. Yeah. So its dharma is fulfilled.
Great. Thanks, plant.
Yeah, but now I've got my hair coming into my eyes. What was I saying? If the thing that a person is concerned with is whether or not they're being fed, they will create the hell type environment, step by step. For the most part, until someone's at the absolute end of their rope or they're at some form of peak maturity bodhisattva status, we're waffling between heaven and hell. That's what human life is people having pro-social intentions or habits in one moment and being afraid the next moment and making selfish decisions. And we have some ratio, and the degree to which that ratio goes one way or the other, we are living in a more paradisal or hellish environment at any given point. And what makes a person's life heavenly is to live their life creating a heavenly environment. It sounds tautological, but it's a mistake that gets made constantly, because when a person starts to have negative experiences and they move to and in having experiences that are negative, that they don't enjoy, that they don't like, they start getting concerned with the experience, and they try to move directly into a space where they can ensure for themselves that their future is going to be full of positive experiences, and they start optimizing for their personal experience. What happens is, one step at a time, they start creating a life that is more hellish, because their focus is on what their experience of their life is. And if a person does the inverse thing, if a person just says, I know that I can affect other people's experiences, I don't know that I can do anything that will guarantee my experience, but I can do things for other people for sure, then what you have is as a self-reinforcing paradisal environment. In a very different context, there's the book, I'm forgetting the name of the author right now, um, but it's Learning to Die in the Anthropocene,
Hmm.
and it's actually it's by a Marine veteran who survived Fallujah. And when he came out of it, and people asked him how he survived, um, his direct assertion was by not expecting to. He said, "I knew I couldn't do anything to guarantee my survival. Three-quarters of all Marines that went into Fallujah died. Like, it was bad. Fallujah, people found out, but I think that a lot of the U.S. military did not know, was like, you know, the uh, bad side of Baltimore in Iraq. Iraqis didn't go there. Like, people born in Baghdad didn't go to Fallujah. Like, it was a rough place before the war. And when the Marines went into Fallujah, they just encountered something that was very different than what they had experienced in Baghdad, and it got really awful. Um, and so this Marine said he looked around at the environment and he was just like, I'm gonna, like, stats say I'm gonna die, but I know for sure that I can guarantee uh, a greater likelihood of survival for some number of the guys next to me. And so he just resigned himself to it. He resigned himself to the reality, which is you can knowably improve things for others. You can know that,
Yeah.
but you can't know that your situation will be pleasant. You can't know it.
Yeah.
And so act accordingly. Double the stacks.
Mm.
Feed the person across the table from you. And that's really, it's a thing that's been on my mind since it came up this week in the dojo, even before I got this news this morning. Was um, there are people who are, they're hesitant because we ask a lot. I think you've experienced this in the dojo. We ask a lot of people, and we make some guarantees, but mostly we guarantee that we're going to keep asking a lot, right? And that you know, and that we'll communicate as clearly as we can expectations and do everything we can, like basically that everybody present gets to experience in the benefits of being a part of a group of people that asks a lot. But that's pretty much the only guarantee you get in terms of your own experience. But there is a guarantee that we're going to ask a lot. And for a lot of people, the immediate hesitancy to that is, well, what am I going to get out of it? And the answer is, like, somewhere on this continuum from upset, leaving in a huff, and committing suicide. That's obviously one end of the continuum of what people will get out of coming to the dojo and trying, or trying to try, meaning to try. That's at one end of the continuum, and the other end of the continuum is people get families and relative security and a sense of security and peace and camaraderie and all of these wonderful things, and everybody falls somewhere in the middle, and we can't tell anybody where they're going to fall, right? Because we know this is the continuum, this is the range of expectations and outcomes that people have when they come here. But we can tell you that if you put in work and exert yourself to your fullest, that you'll help other people, right? And you get to be one of those people for some number of other people who are also trying to do that. And anyway, that's my take on the chopsticks-based heaven and hell dichotomy. And I think it's a really important consideration for all kinds of training environments, for any kind of community, definitely any kind of intentional community. But I think it's especially apt here in the dojo for us, which is my responsibility. I'm not responsible for other intentional communities. What are your thoughts on all of it?
Well, I'm actually curious. Do you think the dojo is an intentional community?
Well, we are. We have Uchideshi. You're in Uchideshi. You live here. You train.
Yeah.
You did it on purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yeah. I was just curious.
That makes it. I think that makes it an intentional community, right? I side with Christopher Alexander. Not Christopher. I'm sorry. That was a weird name swap. Charles Eisenstein. That a community is just a group of people who need each other. Sometimes it's on purpose. Sometimes it's not. Either way, it's a community. As opposed to like a social group, a milieu, whatever, the drinking buddies kind of thing. A lot of people want to call the drinking buddies their community, but they shy away from needing or being needed by people in that group. And so they never end up in an actual community. So, here everybody suffers if somebody doesn't hold up their share,
Mm-hmm.
like doesn't do what they've committed to doing.
Yeah.
Like we can really fail
Mm-hmm.
here. For folks in the audience, it's like we own business. Aaron and I are business partners. Like I'm Aaron's teacher in the dojo,
Mm-hmm.
but we're business partners outside of the dojo.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't,
friends,
and we're friends, and this is kind of one of those weird things. I think I turn a lot of people off in this way. It's just like, yeah, we're friends. That's not as important as being business partners.
Hmm.
I like you. I like to like my business partners. Being friends is not super important because I'm friends with a lot of people that I would love to go out and have a drink with, but I don't prioritize that because I have commitments to my business partners. And I have commitment to my wife to succeed with my business partners and to hold my business partners accountable so that I can hold up my commitments to my wife, right? And so, like those things are important because we need each other. We also happen to be friends, which is great and nice, but like, you know, it's interesting. Saoirse and I talk about Friendship is Magic a lot. It's one of her favorite series. And what's interesting to me is that it's a My Little Ponies series. Friendship is the ponies in Friendship is Magic. Most of those stories involve them not being friends by that drinking buddies definition. Like they are a tight community. They need each other, and if they fail each other, they die.
Yeah.
Like I mean, it's a kids show, but it's like the stakes are real. Like, and it's not about friendship in the sense of we like each other and we like spending time with each other. It is about, I mean, you could call it friendship, but it's friendship in the sense of you hold this rope, I'm gonna jump. Like, because one of us needs to be down there, and that kind of trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if that's friendship, then yeah, friendship is very important. But I think most of when people talk about being friends with somebody, it has a lot. It usually is just like, I like spending time with this person, and I'm like, yeah, that's nice. That's a nice to have. But like in that context, like I don't super much care about having friends. Like I do, because that happens.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But like, it's way bigger to me to be like even just like saying like we're roommates, like that means we're beholden to each other for a lot, and we see each other at our best and our worst, and that kind of thing. To me, that's like a lot of people I think put being roommates below being friends, and this, because of how roommates come. It's like you get assigned them in the dorm, and you find one on Craigslist and whatever, and they come and they go, and yeah, like that maybe ranks a little lower than friends, and I think it's also why they come and they go is because we don't treat them like they're more important than friends. But yeah, I think having shared responsibilities and needing each other is big, right? And so that makes us a community, and the fact that all of us are doing it voluntarily on a day-to-day basis, like you have other people that like you could go move out and live someplace else, and like so you have to mean to be here. And yeah, so it's intentional. I hope it's intentional.
Yeah.
And it's so, and we need each other, so it's a community. It was I give a lot of very long answers, I noticed, to fairly simple questions. Is this an intentional community? Got 5 minutes?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think it's important.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you have any other thoughts on heaven and hell? Does that seem wildly absurd, super obvious, offensive? Like I don't know. What do you think of that take on? I mean, it's a big take on all of life, really.
Yeah, it is a big take on all of life. Sorry. I'm hitting that point where I'm like having a hard time processing things right now.
That's fine. So's my phone. So.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
So I don't mean to seem like like I don't have a lot to say, but at this particular moment, I'm just, feeling that.
The cup is full.
Yeah, cup is full. It's, I do feel like when you express, it helps me kind of orient to where you're at, so it's like, when you're speaking to like agreements or the invisible, like when we can make the invisible known through language as one of the means to like make it known, um, I think can help us build like better community, more of a foundation. So yeah, I appreciate your sharing. And mhm.
No problem.
Yeah, I wish I was better at this today. I am not. I'm just gonna accept that.
Yeah,
I don't
it's totally fine.
feel great at this at the moment, but that's okay.
It's totally cool.
It's all part of the practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Are there any threads left untied?
I think that there are a lot of threads left untied.
Yeah.
The tapestry is forming.
Yeah. Sweet. It's gonna be an exciting series.
Yeah.
It was supposed to just be about self-defense and a board game.
No.
It's nothing's ever
It
just
is.
about self-defense in a board game.
That is one thing I feel like I can guarantee is that it is most definitely not going to be that straightforward.
We do have to talk about the board game. We have to
Of
spend
course.
some time. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to be this video.
It is one of the threads that we're weaving in all of this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's gonna be really fun watching that emerge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too. Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm gonna hit stop.
Okay.